Good evening and welcome to NTD News. I'm Cindy Drucare. The Senate today confirmed Army Secretary Mark Esper as a new Secretary of Defense. The vote brings to an end the longest period by far, more than 200 days, that the Pentagon has been without a permanent top official.
An Army veteran, Esper served as a congressional aide, a Pentagon official under President George W. Bush, and Army Secretary since November 2017. He won by an overwhelming 90-8 vote.
During his confirmation hearing, Dr. Esper revealed his clear understanding of what needs to be done on the national security front. Modernize and rebuild our military. Ensure that we are prepared for a new era of great power competition while maintaining our ability to confront terrorist organizations and rogue nations. Cultivate our relationship with our allies and support our men and women in uniform who sacrifice so much to keep our nation safe and free.
Despite strong bipartisan support, he was sharply questioned by Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren, mainly because of his previous work for Raytheon, the third largest U.S. defense contractor. Esper emerged as President Donald Trump's pick after his initial choice, former Boeing executive Patrick Shanahan, withdrew from the running. Even with Esper in charge, there are still other gaps in leadership at the Pentagon that lawmakers will have to work to fill. He was scheduled to be formally appointed by the president and sworn in today.
Should U.S. law enforcement have the right to look at your encrypted messages on WhatsApp if they have a warrant? Attorney General William Barr saying yes at a conference today, citing national security concerns.
Aside from privacy-conscious internet users, the encryption technology, which allows messages only to be seen by the sender and the receiver, is also being used by terrorists, drug cartels, and human traffickers. The U.S. Attorney General said that law enforcement's inability to check on these messages puts the security of society at high risk.
If you remove any possibility that the cops are going to be watching a neighborhood, the criminals already in the neighborhood are going to commit a lot more crimes.
During a cybersecurity conference at Fordham Law School in New York, Barr cited specific alarming examples to prove his case. He said that the popular messaging app WhatsApp was the primary communication method of a Mexican cartel. This cartel not only used the app to traffic large quantities of fentanyl from Asia to the U.S., but also to coordinate hundreds of murders of Mexican police officers. Barr said that if the U.S. law enforcement was able to access the chats in a more timely manner, lives could have been saved. The debate over encryption of devices and apps is not new, however. Law enforcement and tech companies have been battling since 2016, when Apple refused to unlock an iPhone of a California gunman for the FBI to investigate. Tech companies have been saying that if they opened backdoors for law enforcement, this access could also be detected and exploited by criminals. Barr called on tech companies to work it out.
But I am suggesting that it is well past time for some in the tech community to abandon the posture that a technical solution is not worth exploring and instead turn their considerable talent to developing products that will reconcile good cybersecurity to the imperative of public safety and national security.
President Trump is suing the U.S. House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee to prevent it from obtaining his New York State tax returns.
In a filing in the D.C. U.S. District Court, Trump's lawyers argued that a law passed earlier this month by New York State would violate the president's constitutional rights. The filing says the law was enacted to retaliate against the president because of his policy positions, his political beliefs, and his protected speech, referring to an amendment to a tax law signed by Governor Andrew Cuomo, requiring state income tax returns to be shared with certain congressional committees upon request. Trump's lawyers wrote that Trump was forced to bring the lawsuit to safeguard his legal rights in light of a media report claiming the House panel's chairman may make a request under the law. Traditionally, U.S. presidential candidates have released their tax returns on the campaign trail, but Trump has opted not to, citing audits. The Treasury Department blocked a request for access, saying the committee has no legitimate purpose for reviewing Trump's tax returns. House Ways and Means Chairman Richard Neal has filed a lawsuit. It seeks to compel the Treasury Department to hand over 6 years of Trump's individual and business tax returns. He initially suggested New York's law was not relevant to his efforts.
Boris Johnson takes the crown as the UK's next Prime Minister. He'll officially replace Theresa May tomorrow.
Boris Johnson defeated Jeremy Hunt today during the Conservative Party leadership race by about 2/3 of the votes. It was a very high turnout, about 87.4% turnout from around 160,000 Conservative Party members eligible to vote. During his speech, he thanked Theresa May and his opponent, and he repeated his campaign party's pledge.
Deliver Brexit, unite the country and defeat Jeremy Corbyn.
During the brief speech, he said he'll energise the country.
And I know some waggles already pointed out that deliver, unite and defeat was not the perfect acronym for an election campaign, since unfortunately it spells dud. But they forgot the final E, my friends, E for energize. And I say to all the doubters, dude, we are going to energize the country. We're going to get...
He has a full plate of challenges waiting for him as he officially becomes a new Prime Minister tomorrow. EU Commission's Brexit negotiator Michel Barnier said he was looking forward to working with Johnson. He faces some dissension from members in his own party. Justice Secretary David Gauke quit shortly after Johnson was elected. Several people on the street didn't want to be interviewed as they were quite upset that Johnson took the crown. Others were a little more positive.
I think he's got some good ideas, but I honestly can't accept the no-deal Brexit stance he's got. And
I tend to feel he'll probably get himself a really good team around him, and I think probably more as a unit, certainly more than Theresa May's had, bless her.
Another change in boss for the Downing Street cap. The pressure is on for Johnson to unite a divided party that has a small majority and keep his promise to deliver Brexit on time. Jane Worrell, NTD News.
And President Trump has called Boris Johnson his friend and said he would be happy for him to become Britain's next Prime Minister. Now that he has, here's how Trump reacted.
President Trump called Boris Johnson today a really good man after congratulating him on Twitter for winning the UK election.
He's tough and he's smart. They're saying Britain Trump. They call him Britain Trump, and people are saying that's a good thing, that they like me over there.
The two have some striking similarities. Both were born in New York City, both U.S. citizens till Boris gave up his U.S. passport in 2016, and both have striking blonde hair whose reputation is inseparable from the men themselves. But possibly what makes them most similar is their unconventional political style and brash personalities.
He's a different kind of a guy. But they say I'm a different kind of a guy, too. We get along well. I think we'll have a very good relationship.
Although not initially in favor of Brexit, Johnson has now become an ardent supporter of the movement. Trump has criticized current Prime Minister Theresa May's handling of Britain's exit from the EU.
And I seem to remember the President suggested that I sued the European Union, which we didn't do. We went into negotiations and we came out with a good deal.
Yeah, that's not such a... I would have sued, but that's okay.
Trump says he has confidence Johnson will straighten out the relationship.
Boris is good. He's going to do a good job.
But the two also had their policy differences, notably on Iran. Last year, President Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, which Johnson tried to prevent. Johnson said earlier this month that while he thinks the deal is on life support, the best way forward is to use diplomacy with Iran. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
The Senate today voted 97-2 to pass a bill that will finance the 9/11 Victim Compensation Fund for decades. The bill ensures that individuals who were injured during the 2001 terrorist attacks are permanently compensated, including those who rescued people and cleared debris under hazardous conditions.
The yeas are 97, the nays are 2. The bill is passed.
The House passed the bill earlier this month. President Trump is also expected to sign it. According to the Justice Department, the original fund spanned from 2001 to 2004 and distributed over $7 billion to families of the deceased and those who were injured. Congress reactivated the fund in 2011 and again in 2015. It was set to stop taking new claims in December 2020. The fund's administrator said almost 20,000 compensation forms were received from 2016 to 18. This is in part due to an increased rate of serious illnesses. The new bill will extend the expiration date through 2090. The Congressional Budget Office estimates it will cost $10 billion over the next decade. Holly Kellum, NTD News.
The State Department has been given a list of names of Chinese officials documented as personally taking part in persecuting Falun Gong in China. According to new rules, these individuals will be blacklisted from entering the United States.
One of the most persecuted groups in the world, Falun Gong in China, has submitted to the U.S. State Department its list of the Chinese regime's worst human rights abusers. Department officials say the list will be reviewed, and for anyone placed on the U.S. blacklist, it would apply to their spouse and their children as well. Last week, at the second annual Ministerial to Advance Religious Freedom, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo told 1,000 attendees, including foreign delegates,
I want you to know that America's commitment to religious freedom will never waver. We stand with you and for you in each stage of this fight.
The list relates to an initiative that started in May when the State Department told some religious and faith groups that the U.S. would start to review visa applications more rigorously and deny entry to human rights violators, including those who already have visas or green cards.
The administration has done has been very, very positive. No one connected to that activity ought to be ever allowed to come into the United States.
The website minghui.org, which has been rigorously documenting the persecution against Falun Gong for the past 20 years, compiled the names. It published on its website a partial list of the people included, along with a description of their crimes.
Right, and we have to sanction them all, like make it so that they can't send their kids to colleges in the UK, in the United States, and in Western countries where they have trouble flying and getting visas. If we can impact that with these sanctions individually without hurting the people of China, that would be ideal.
State Department officials have revealed that in the last few years, some Chinese visa applicants have already been denied due to their persecuting Falun Gong practitioners.
And whether it's sanctions or whether it's pulling back on visas of the top leadership of the PRC, there's a lot of things that ought to be looked at.
On July 18th, Pompeo announced that the United States will create the International Religious Freedom Alliance, bringing together like-minded countries to confront the challenges of international religious freedom. Experts believe now is the time to work together internationally to investigate and punish perpetrators.
And I think that's very, very important. And we have to get other countries to join in. We have to get Canada, we have to get the European countries, we have to get Australia and other countries to join in to have targeted sanctions against Chinese officials who are guilty of gross human rights violations.
Reporting by Kitty Wang, NTD News.
Videos of police officers in New York being doused with water and hit with objects surfaced on Twitter. Today, politicians and the chief of police are calling what happened disgraceful and reprehensible. NTD's Miguel Morano has more on the story.
Oh my God, they came over here to talk to them that they violated.
The videos uploaded by NY Scanner surfaced on Monday. One of officers in uniform being doused while making an arrest, and another of two officers being sprayed as they calmly cross the street. Police Chief Terrence Monahan called the conduct reprehensible on Twitter and reminded New Yorkers that they must respect law enforcement. While the reasoning behind the dousing is unknown, Joseph Imperatrice, the founder of Blue Lives Matter, said that law enforcement has been villainized by activist movements such as Black Lives Matter. Last Tuesday, Attorney General William Barr determined that there was insufficient evidence to federally charge New York officer Danny Pantaleo with the death of Eric Garner, who was arrested for selling untaxed cigarettes. Garner died due to an asthma attack during the arrest.
The Gardner family and Black Lives Matter pretty much threatened the city of New York that they were going to shut it down because they didn't like the outcome that they received. And these officers are afraid to go out there and do their job and put their hands on people because they don't want to be the next Daniel Pantaleo.
Monahan reminded officers that the force fully supports them and to make arrests if necessary. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
As Paris swelters through a heat wave, which could bring record-breaking temperatures this week, tourists take to the fountains in front of the Eiffel Tower to cool off.
Attempting to beat the stifling heat, tourists made the most of Paris City Beach, Paris Plage, next to the River Seine, as well as drinking water and cooling off with the mist machines placed around the city. Weather authority Meteo France forecasts highs of over 40 degrees Celsius for Thursday, which would match the all-time record temperature for the city. Meteo France have put a record 80 of France's administrative regions on orange heatwave warnings, and the government has imposed restrictions on water use in 73 regions due to a drought.
At the launch of a new dinosaur ride in Hollywood, actor Chris Pratt promises Jurassic World 3 will amaze fans.
Pratt says while he doesn't know the script yet, he does know the plot.
I haven't been able to read the script, but I've been able to talk and get the story pitched to me, and I'm really excited, and fans are going to lose their minds.
He added that working on the new ride and being on a movie set are pretty similar.
We shot a lot of video pieces for this, so it felt just like being on set. And the only difference is when I go sit down to watch the movie of Jurassic World, I kind of know what I'm going to expect. When I sat on the ride, I didn't know what to expect, and I was blown away.
Jurassic World co-star Bryce Dallas Howard was also at the launch at Universal Studios and says the ride feels as realistic as the film.
This ride is just like, it's so fun because you feel like you're inside the movie. I mean, one of the best things about being in a Jurassic movie are the animatronic dinosaurs, because when you're close to them, I mean, you think you're around a dinosaur, and like you get like goosebumps, and you know, it just feels real.
Jurassic World 3 starts filming next spring in London.
And that's all for today's NTD News. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Cindy Drucare.